Sup fools, how's it going? Welcome to another video. And today we're going back to Blender. I want to show you something what you can do inside of Blender. That's the clip.
Hey, I can't believe they kicked me out of the Breakdance crew. Saying I'm too small, I'm gonna show them.
So the way we're going to do that, I'm just going to record something on my phone, just here in my office. And then I'm going to track the footage inside of Blender. I'm going to show you how to do it. And after that, we're just going to go to Mixmo, where we can grab a character and animate this character and put it into Blender, so it is basically in my room. I'm going to try to keep it short and simple, but let's see how it goes. So for that, I'm just going to record real quick something on my phone, something in my room, let's say my camera bag. Cool. I'm going to send this to my computer. Then we can track it and put some cool animations in it. Let's go. Okay, the first time you start Blender, it probably doesn't look like this. I talked about it in my last tutorial that you can adjust your startup file. This is what mine looks like. I have my little Michal here, the camera here. In that case, we don't need the camera, so I'm going to delete that. But yeah, Michal is going to be very helpful later. So the first thing we do, we need to track our footage. So I'm going to go up here to the motion tracking. If you don't have it, you can click on the plus, the VFX, and on motion tracking, then it appears. Now drag and drop your footage in here. So this is my shot. I hope it's going to be good enough because it's dark right now. It's nighttime, so we don't so it can get a little noisy, which makes it harder for the tracking, but we'll see. Maybe it's gonna work. So the first thing is I click on set scene frames. That's gonna adjust my timeline. That is exactly 181 frames long. The next thing is I prefetch. That basically pre-renders my entire scene so I can actually watch it. And yeah, then I click on here on those little buttons, and then I determine, is it blurry footage or is it fast motion, planar? And usually fast motion or blurry footage works best because then it tries to look more exact where my tracking markers are. I don't have any tracking markers. I just have my camera lying on the floor. So I'm just gonna go with blurry footage. So I'm just gonna, it automatically adjusts a few things. Here in motion, I usually like to go with affine. I have good results with that, but depending on your movement, how you go through your footage, another one could be better, but for mine, I'm gonna go with affine. If that one doesn't work, I'm gonna go with location, rotation, and scale, but affine for now. So now you can click on normalize. It's going to take longer, but it looks a little more exact for the tracking markers. So the first thing I do is I go to the very first frame, click on detect features. Now you see all those tracking markers in my shot. And now when I click on this little bad boy, it's going to track my footage. From the get-go, it looks very good, actually. I'm surprised that it recognizes the carpet that well. And here you see very even movements. This is exactly what you want. Those little things here, let me make this a little bigger. Those little things here is what you don't want. You're going to delete them at some point, but we can deal with that later. What we're going to do first is when we go to the very last frame, 181, detect features again, and now we're going to click on this bad boy, which is going to make us track backwards, and that gives me basically double the tracking information, and with that I should be good to go. And then when this is done, I can do with the scene whatever I want, but more about that later. I'm actually surprised how good that's going. So now I can see which one of those I might have to delete. This one, I don't know where it is. It's like one of those here. This one doesn't do a good job. This one neither. This one neither. So you try to minimize those little up waves here. Try to have as few as possible. The good thing is in the end, you only need 8 good tracking markers. So if you delete a bunch, it doesn't matter. Again, shortcut for delete is X. So I click on the marker, hit X, and delete curve. So I'm going to do that until I feel like, okay, it's good enough. Now when we think it is good enough, we click on solve. And now we determine keyframes. What are the most distinct keyframes? I feel like around 120 is a good one. And the other one maybe, let's go with 27 in the beginning. If I don't want to determine my keyframes myself, I just click on keyframe and then you just click on solve camera. And now it's calculating the keyframes and tries to figure out the camera movement so it can copy this information into my CG camera. So when I add objects into my scene, they're gonna move exactly like my real camera. And that usually takes a few minutes, sometimes seconds, depending on how good your computer is, depending on how many trackers you have. But eventually it's gonna give you a solve error, and this solve error, your goal is to keep it under 1 pixel. If it's a little over 1 pixel, it's not a big deal, especially when you work with 4K footage or bigger, then it's not a big deal. If you work with full HD footage, then it definitely should be smaller than 1 pixel. Great. And already we have a solve error of 2.4, which is great for the beginning. Sometimes you have a solve error of 800 or more. So that's great. So now we just have to clean up all the dirty tracks. Like this one is completely straight, so that can't be right. And everything what stands out here, like these here, this guy, all these, we're just gonna delete, keep deleting because we have more than enough. We have like so many, and in the end we only need 8, so we just can keep deleting until our curve here is as clean as possible. If you don't have enough tracks, you might have to go back and track more, but that's not going to be the case here. So this is good. Now when we think we're ready, just hit solve camera again. All right, we got a solve error of 2 pixels. Technically it's still too high, but just for tutorial purposes, because I want to move on here, I just want to see if that's good enough. So the next thing we have to do is we have like all those markers here. And now I want to determine, okay, where am I going to put my object? And I think around this guy. But before we do that, we have to set our scene as a background and also set up our tracking scene. So now on the top right view, we see, okay, something happened. The camera moved. Then you look through the camera here. Okay, so now we see something is happening, but our object is floating around somewhere in the background. So now we have to set our origin. So I'm going to select this guy and set origin. Now we see he is at the right spot. The problem is our floors are crooked right now. So now we have to select 3 tracking markers. Preferably they're very far away from each other. Hold shift and click on 3 different ones, and then click on floor. Last thing we need to do is set our scale. And I put these 2 things exactly, or more or less, 10 centimeters away from each other. So now when I go here, adjust it until I have in the scale I want. More or less the size I want my model to be in the end. So that's cool. I apply a scale. And now we're pretty much done with the tracker here. So I go here on layout, and now when I click 0, I can see through my camera and I see everything is tracked properly. Sweet. But now I don't want my Miho to be here. I want something more cool. And a very cool, easy way to get like animated 3D models in your scene is Mixmo. Mixmo is a website. It's by Adobe, who makes Photoshop and Premiere and After Effects and whatnot. And they have hundreds of pre-animated characters, and you can use any character you want with any animation you want. And the coolest thing is you can even upload your own model as long as it's properly modeled in T form, T pose. Then you can upload your own model, rig it, and give it the same animations. Now let's take a look at this website. So here we have hundreds of animations. You can see this guy is swinging a fist, and this guy's just walking to the left, and it's like so many different things, and I don't even know what to choose. Ooh, the flare. I always wanted to learn the flare. Never got to do it. Lots of cool characters you can use for free. Well, you have to be sign up with Adobe, but yeah. So now you can select a few things. Here you can have just the part of the animation, like that would be enough, but I usually take the entire animation, so it's like 2 rounds of flares. You can select the arm space. If you have very big character like the ones before, you select more arm space. If it's like a tiny one, you have it more together, but normally you're okay if you use the middle one. And overdrive is you want it to be like super fast or super slow. Like if there was a very huge character, then you would make it very slow. But this one is going to be tiny, so I'm going to make it a little faster than normal. It's going to be cute. And now that's it. Now you just go on download. FBX is what you want. Frames per second, I usually do everything in 24 frames per second. I want it with the skin, and just click on none. That's the best one. Now click on download. Now you're downloading the model with the animation. And now we're back to Blender. And now I can import it. I go on File, Import, FBX, and the flare. Since I determined my origin point earlier, it's going to do it exactly where I want him to do it. See, down here. But as you can see, the animation is not long enough, so let's fix that first. It's a very easy fix. First I thought, okay, you have to copy paste those keyframes, and technically that works, but there's a better, easier way. If you just go in your graph editor, bottom right here, you see the modifiers. You add a modifier, cycles. Now he automatically is going to do the flare over and over again. If you want the animation to be slower, you can just scale it up, then it's going to be slower. But I like it like this. I might even scale it up a little, but you want to scale up the bones. And this is just, this is what it looks like in wireframe. And in cycles, this is what it would look like. Not great, because I don't have any lights in here. So now the tricky part is I have to simulate the light. And either I do that with an HDRI, or I set up my own lights. I do that with Shift A, light, and I could do an area light. Yeah, area light will be appropriate. I could do also a point light, probably not a spotlight. Let's do an area light. I'm going to bring that up here to his right, our left. Turn this towards him. Okay, I know that the light is somewhere here, so I'm going to try to bring it to the same position. Yeah, but I can always adjust it later. So now when I look through my cycles, I want to adjust the light a little. I make it a little stronger until I actually see what I want to see. When I go to my camera settings, I have the possibility to turn background image on or off. In that case, I want to turn it on, opacity 100%. But I also have to go to my film settings here and turn on transparent so I don't see the HDRI. So now he's beautifully lit. Here I can look at him. Perfect. We still don't see a shadow, and the problem is because we need a shadow catcher. And for that, I'm going to make a new plane, Shift A, plane, make it bigger. Gotta make sure he touches the ground actually. Like right now, he's not touching the ground. Cool. And now I have this long shadow on him, as you can see. But I can also adjust that I only want to see this plane as a shadow catcher. I don't want to see it otherwise. And I do that by clicking on this guy, visibility, and here, shadow catch. Now I only see the shadow. So to be perfect, technically perfect, I would need to remodel a part of my camera back here and, you know, all this stuff. But I'm lazy in this tutorial, so instead, I'm just going to move him away from the back. Also, I could just move the light a little higher, because technically the light is right there. It is almost on like chest height. So I would try to simulate that. See, that looks pretty good. This shadow is a little harsher than this. Easy fix. I'm going to scale up the area light until it somewhat looks like this one. Also, this shadow is a little warmer than mine because the HDRI I'm using is not that warm, but that also I can adjust with the world settings, click this guy, and make the HDRI warmer. But also this is stuff you can do in compositing afterwards. It doesn't have to be perfect here, just good enough. The important part is that our guy looks like he belongs there. And for that, I look at the blacks of his. Do his black look like my camera black, for example? Does this red look like my camera red? So I have like good references within my scene, so I know, okay, it's gonna look somewhat real. But again, it doesn't have to look perfect in Blender. Once it's exported and you shoot it into After Effects or Premiere, then you can adjust these things. So yeah, the shadow is still too harsh. I'm gonna make the light bigger, move it further away until I get the result I want.
I can't believe they kicked me out of the breakdance crew. Saying I'm too small, I'm gonna show them.
And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions about any of that, please let me know in the comments below. I'm here to help, but I'm also here to learn. So if you have any suggestions how to make things better, man, I'm open for it. Please let me know. Thank you so much and see you in the next video. Toodaloo. Again.